Hello to all of you out there, and welcome to this stream. This stream is sponsored by the very nice RPA slash automation consulting company, Digital Workforce. Speaking of Digital Workforce, I have Karli from Digital Workforce with me today, one of their top employees. He will tell us about how we can improve our RPA with BPA. First of all, I don't know nothing. I know a little about BPA, so I'm sure he will clarify a lot of things for me and you. Ask all the questions you want in the chat to Karli while he speaks. I'll make sure that he answers all of you. And with that said, welcome Karli to the show.
Thank you very much, Anders. It's a
And
pleasure to be here. And I'm joining from a remote setup for today's session. So I hope that the Wi-Fi carries me through the session.
I
I
know,
will be, yeah.
I know you're a busy man, so I'm sure it will hold. Karli, I will share your presentation, then I
Sure.
will talk a little bit with the viewers in the chat, and we will start and hear more about you, and then digital workforce, and most BPA, because that's what we're
Yeah.
here for. I know you're an expert in this, so I'm looking very much forward myself as well. So I will share your presentation here. There it is. And we are ready to start.
And I
It
see.
looks
So yeah. Thank you. You want to have something to open up the stage, or should I take it from here?
What do you say, Karli?
So you want to have an opening word around this, or should I take it from
Yeah,
here now?
maybe just an opening word. Maybe you can just in one sentence or two sentences tell me what BPA, business process automation, is and why I should care as an RPA professional.
Yeah, actually, I kind of going into the presentation, I've prepared a couple of slides on a conceptual level exactly about that. But you can think of it as a kind of or for me at least, the hierarchy goes like that. That there's customers goes through some journeys through when they are a customer of a bank, for example, they apply for a loan. That's a loan origination journey. They are a patient of an health institution. They go through this one kind of a journey, their patient journey. That journey consists of multiple or dozens of different processes. I have slides, a couple of slides to explain about that. So long running processes that constitute that kind of a full customer journey. Underneath those processes, there's thousands and thousands of tasks that need to be performed to achieve the process, and eventually the dozens of processes sum into that journey. And when we talk about business process automation, BPA, that we're capable to talk about how can we orchestrate and kind of drive the actual customer journey across all those sub processes and the underlying activities, the tasks. And those tasks, they are typically the level of a process, as the industry call it, but they're typically the task is something that is automated typically via technologies like RPA. So that is the entity that is in the bottom, if one likes, in the hierarchy. Those tasks can be performed by technologies like RPA. They can be directly done by API integrations. They can be done with artificial intelligence type of capabilities or by humans. And those are the actors, those four type of actors that are the task performers. And then why they do some tasks, they complete tasks in a sequence to do a process. And those processes are the things that create that customer journey and the kind of end-to-end and process the end-to-end journey. And that business process automation, we talk about capabilities that can orchestrate these different actors, the humans, the RPAs, the APIs, the AIs, to create those processes. And even in some cases that we are going to go through today, we can even use case management to orchestrate that kind of long-running customer journey across those sub-processes. So that it is technology capability used to connect these separate activities, disconnect activities, processes that then create the customer value in concept and the idea behind that.
I'm looking very much forward to see what you got for us, Karli. And I will say hello to Eric from Portugal. He's joining to see the show, and Sagar is also joining. Welcome to the stream. And Karli, we will get back to your presentation right now, and I will make sure that everyone that places a comment or have a question will get their voice heard someplace here in the session.
Good. So yeah, today's topic and a couple of slides I've prepared. First, a bit of an introductions to the company, to me myself, then a couple of slides on the conceptual ideas, the value proposition behind business process automation, and how that relates to task automation that we talked about. And then I'm going to go through, I have prepared 6 use cases or from different industries, cases where this type of capability is used to transform the operational processes. And I'm going to talk about them. Hopefully we had a good discussion with Anders around them. Hopefully there's very good questions and kind of chip-ins from the audience today around those. And the idea is just to kind of show what type of forms business process automation can take in different industries and different use cases. And also kind of talk about what is the value creation behind the business value behind those solutions or kind of end products. Without further kind of delay, a couple of words about us as a company. So we have been in the industry since 2015 as digital workforce. We operate across the kind of Nordics in all of the capital cities. We have offices in Poland, in London, in Ireland, in New York, and in Atlanta. So 11 offices, more than 200 kind of customers. We are a very proud partner of the leading automation technologies in the market. And we have then kind of, or we claim ourselves that we have automated or returned more than 10 million hours back to the business. And that is based on the data that we get from our customers on the value that the automations we have delivers to them. So we consider ourselves as the leading business process automation organization, a specialist in this domain, at least in the Nordics, but also Forrester and other has kind of marked us as global leaders in these domains over the years. So we are very proud, a specialist company in this domain. Not a small company anymore, though. We have grown to be quite large, more than 200 people, 240 people working with us. But that is the story in a nutshell. A couple of words about myself. So I started as an RPA developer, quickly became a ROM architect, a program manager, started at 2016 in the company, have Blue Prism accreditations, professional developer, all sorts of accreditations there. Then after that, I have been driving and leading our consulting business for a couple of years. And then I've been heading our kind of strategy transformation as well as a CTO role since 2021. And now latest during this year, also having commercial responsibility around the financial services industry. So been with the company quite some time, seen the turns and twists that we have taken, and lately for the past 2.5 years has been responsible of the kind of transformation of becoming a business process automation company, a holistic business process automation company. Our beginning and the first years were very, very much only focusing on RPA as a standalone technology back in 2016, 17, 18, and so forth. 2 kids, a nice family back home. I'm a sports lover. That's why I'm today joining from a remote setup, because I'm going to go and watch the Ryder Cup for 4 days. So I'm actually in Italy at the moment, just arrived at our villa. And from tomorrow onwards, I will be kind of keeping a close eye on how Europe is going to win over USA at that prestige tournament. So that's a little bit, couple of words about myself. Then let's go.
Yeah, please. Sorry, Karli. It was just that seemed like a nice career. So you started like an RPA developer, like the rest of us, and then you grew in the company.
Yes, exactly. It's been a journey with the company and growing with the company, especially, and being exposed to the market leading kind of RPA programs that our customers have and how they think about automation, how they think how RPA has been good for them and what are probably the shortcomings of RPA and how their thinking has matured over the years about how could they improve something that resides more in their core of the business. And this slide, this couple of conceptual slides, is just about that. So there's a very nice kind of it's an MIT research behind this, but there's very nice kind of data points that McKinsey and company has put together, stating, and there's 3 sections in these data points. But I just want to bring this up because it highlights the value why this is important. It's nice to have technology, it's nice to do business process automation, case management, but the question resides, why should you bother? And the simple answer is that based on the MIT research, typically organizations are constructed in a way that there's around 10 core operational end-to-end workflows or processes, those customer journeys. So it might be your lending journey or wealth management journey, patient journey, the order to cash, purchase to pay, production planning, different processes in different industries, but typically around 10 processes that create 70% of all the business value that the organization delivers. So the whole competitiveness, competitive edge, the kind of cost measures, all of that manifests in those 10 processes. And the other side of the coin, that the remaining 30% of the business value resides in hundreds or even thousands of, not in the core, but in support functions residing to processes or tasks that need to be done. Is it in finance and accounting, HR? It doesn't say that those processes wouldn't be important, but from the business creation point of view and how competitive an organization is, those 10 processes matter. So I always say that when you think about your automation program, when you think about how to scale it, first ask the question that are we having our finger on top of these 10 processes? Are we actually working in the core of the business, or are we doing something else? And then take the next steps. And the second bullet, our second data point in the middle, is that with today's technologies, and this is actually from 2021, this research, so it's already a couple of years old, but with today's technologies, it states the MIT research that every second work activity could be automated. That is the huge potential and promise of RPAs and APIs and business process automations and AIs and whatnot. That every second work activity that is done in 2021 could be automated, and then McKinsey has spun it around saying that they will be automated by 2025. That's a bold statement, might be 30%, 20%, but it gives you the scale of the potential of transforming. But the latest data, or the last data point in this slide, really kind of at least got me thinking very heavily, and this is in the core of our thinking as well, in the kind of why we want to be the leader, especially in the business process automation domain, is that even though this is true, and even though every second work activity could be automated, only less than 5% of full job descriptions can be automated. So only in less than 5% of cases, the whole job of a person can be automated. And if you recall, or if you think everyone, you're kind of masters in the RPA programs, the way we have approached as RPA technology vendors and service providers and programs automation is that we go and ask for Mike and Lisa what you do on Mondays and Tuesdays. Is your job a tedious and mundane one? And then we prioritize the cases where we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15 FTEs. And that kind of makes sense. You can tap into the early potential. There's the low-hanging fruit, finding those 3 FTE processes. But this data shows it, at least hints to the direction that you hit the glass ceiling. And after you have been about automating 5% of the work, you cannot find that type of a process anymore. But still you have the kind of a proposition that 50% of the activities could be automated. They are not just come in the units of one person. They come in units of tasks along different processes. And what is the unifying thing in those tasks is that they are part of those processes. They're part of those core processes. And you start to get the idea that to automate the core processes, where 70% of value, or transform them, you need capabilities to orchestrate and connect the automations that might be up to 50%, no matter what is the number, 30 or 50, but you need to connect them. But the other side of the coin is that by definition, every second work activity cannot be automated. So you need to connect the automations and the humans to create those processes. And there is the value. And that's why, for example, Bearing Point states that organizations that organize around the end-to-end processes are 3 times more productive than companies that are based on traditional functional silos. So there's lots of push to this direction in the strategy consulting, process consulting organizations, because they have understood that the unit that you should optimize is the process. And along the process, there's thousands of tasks, out of which every second could be automated. But as individual standalone kind of automation pieces, they don't return the value, or they never get automated because the task itself is not valued 1 or 2 or 3 FTEs. So that is the idea behind it. And then you can think of it as a maturity kind of a model. So you start with automating tasks, then you move into automating kind of business functions like the financial accounting function, the HR function, the procurement, this type of places. Then you are working probably with the Microsoft Power Apps, Microsoft Power Platform capabilities to automate and connect legacy applications to create kind of application level automation. And then in the mature stages, it's about growing into actually automating business processes, and eventually in the future, kind of automating decisions, doing cognitive automation, allowing and kind of autonomous enterprise to emerge from this kind of capabilities. And if you plot the things there, so the 5% of the business value, the task automation value, the first thing that you need to do is that you ensure that you roll it out into all of the business functions, that low-hanging fruit. But then the actual potential, the 70% of the value, is residing in connecting those separate actors to become business processes, where you have the potential of automate every second work activity and really transform the core processes. And then this is probably the future, but automating of business decision and cognitive automation are something where the kind of maturity is going if you extrapolate it from today's situation onwards.
Cool.
So these were the
and Karli, just to interrupt you, because we have a lot of people saying hi to you, and we also have a few questions to all those interesting things you said. People calling it a nice presentation, and yeah, of course, saying hello to you. And we have 2 questions related to what you're saying here. First one is from Eduardo. He says that, don't you think that 5% of job roles that can be automated is too low?
I wouldn't say that it's too low. I think every CEO in any company would be happy to take 5% of productivity gains, releasing people to do something more meaningful, more kind of valuable for the organization than doing tasks that can be fully automated. It's probably a quite good kind of a connotation. But at the same time, it is how I usually construct the kind of transformation journey for an organization. I say that obviously you need to start with the 5%. Obviously, we need to start with the low-hanging fruits, because then you can build a self-funding program. Your return on investment is 6 months or 9 months in those automations, something like that. So you can have a self-funding program that gets your automation team up and running. And the good news about the kind of next stages in the maturity, or whatever we want to call them, is that exactly the same capabilities. Yesterday, we saw how Nico demoed a low-code capability to do business process automation, connecting the RPAs and the different kind of low-code application tools, Power Platform activities into long-running processes. So exactly the same methodologies, the people, the technical capabilities can execute the next phases. So it's a very good way to get started, get a significant return on investment, but also understanding that at some point that typical approach, which is based on the idea that let's ask from people what they're doing and defining after that, is that something that can be automated, is kind of missing. It's coming from the angle that where people do work, when the business process automation comes from the angle that what are the journeys that our customers take through our organization when they consume our organization as a service provider. And how can I transform that, improve the turnaround time, or improve the kind of cost ratio in that operation, or make it more available for our business, our customers, something like that. So those capabilities has value in a different level, in different elements than simply in automating human activities and optimizing cost structure, if one likes, in the organization. So I think it's valuable, but it's not necessarily the kind of the story shouldn't end there, is my point.
Thank you, Karli, and I hope, Eduardo, was that answer enough for you? Please let us know in the chat. Actually, one last question, then we'll continue with the presentation, Karli. Anders from Denmark, yes, it is me, and I have a very low-level question, but I think a lot of us are speculating in that way. Will my job as an RPA developer be automated? When we see the fast movement of AI, I mean, it will be pretty easy to copy what I do as a developer, don't you think?
Yeah, it's go now. This conversation takes a new spin. I'm happy to take it. Please do the time management and drive us back to the original agenda when you want. But I think the generative AI, and especially these kind of cockpit type of capabilities where you can actually or elements or technologies where you can use prompting, chat type of a discussion, and create pieces of the code, ask a AI model to do an automation that returns data from Salesforce and does X, Y, and Z with it, and then uploads it into SAP, and it creates you the skeleton. Obviously, that sounds a lot like a job that an RPA developer, any developer would do. And I think in the big scale, what is happening in the market, in the big scale, and this now I'm talking about 5 or 10 or 15 years, the big trends are that technology vendors are taking their technologies into cloud, the cloud first kind of strategy. That is one thing. Another thing, that the big technology vendors are investing in the low code capabilities. So if RPA development is low code, you model in your processes. So obviously you can use scripting and different languages to kind of turbocharge your processes. But anyway, it's a low code. And that improves. And then there's the kind of AI support, generative AI support that can even make the low code more kind of scalable. And all these trends, they play in a big trend where at least the role of the service integrator and service provider in between of the technology vendor and the company who consumes those processes, that is at least ask the question that what is the role and how much value it resides that someone has black belt experts in applying technologies that exist on the market. At least in that scale, I understand the question very well. That is something is happening, but I don't know. It's, in my opinion, it's not a kind of it's not a polarized question. It's not like it's a kind of a 1 or 0. It's a continuum that there's very much value in certain aspects of having people reviewing the stuff, improving it, kind of bringing new elements into the code that generative AI can develop, and definitely it's a role. But that is a big trend that we see in front of us, and it will have an effect into our industry in some way or another. It has an effect in all industries that we see. So in that sense, that's a very well-motivated question. I don't have a full answer to give you a perfect world.
No. I just thank you for your effort here. I think it was nice that I could ask an expert, because I thought about that for a long time, and I know I get a lot of questions around that area. And please, Karli, continue with your excellent presentation. I know that Deepak says that he wants to see how RPA and BPM can work together, and I know you will talk about that later today. So Deepak, stay tuned, and we'll continue with a nice presentation here.
Good. So this is, I think you saw this slide yesterday, those who were present. It was part of Nico's presentation as well, but kind of as a summary, and why I want to bring this up and why I have named the summary as it's a change in the mindset. And how I have constructed this slide is that the tools come in the last bullet point, because yes, you need new capabilities. You cannot automate an end-to-end process with simple RPA engine. It doesn't persist the state. It doesn't allow you to do long-running processes. You cannot do really asynchronous processing. There's many gaps in that capability. But that's not the point. The point is that when you move from task automation, the whole program construct is changed in multiple levels. The reason why you do automation is to improve the business performance. It's not just to find those FTE heavy, tedious and mundane tasks that can be automated more or less as is. that you're actually using technology, modern low code, no code technologies to transform the end-to-end business processes in the core of the business, improving the business KPIs. And yes, in the toolbox, you need new technologies and the idea of the fact that humans need to be seen as the same type of an intelligent actor in the end-to-end process as these automation capabilities. And it's not about asking a binary question, can I automate this job? It's that what is the role of this job in the end-to-end process? If it can be automated, good. If not, then I need a way to still allow the process to run smoothly, optimize the process flow itself. The process itself needs to be automated, even though the individual tasks might still be performed by humans. That is probably a kind of the idea. It's about automating the process flow and the sequences and the variations and business rules in the overall process, not that much about automating every single task in the process. And we saw from the MIT research that even though we would be in the perfect world and automating every second work activity, the other side of the coin is that every second work activity is not automated, but they're still part of the core processes. And the idea of business process automation is automating the flow, the actions, and the logic in the process. So then spinning this into a kind of a practical context. So let's look like how a corporate loan origination kind of process or the value stream of the different phases of the process look like. So first there is an event, some kind of a signal coming into usually a bank who gives these loans out. And that might come from the web pages. That's very common that you apply for a loan, at least here in Finland. I just Google, I want to have a mortgage, and then I get all the 17 different banks who operate in Finland pushing out the link to their kind of a mortgage loan application. So it might be the web pages. It might be I call my agent in the bank. I say I have this type of a job, and they start it manually through the customer service, or then I can do this in the chatbot. This is something I have seen in many places. I can start to ask, or the chatbot asks from me the questions that are actually in the same form that I see on the web page. It just comes to a chat format. So that is the starting point. And then hopefully I'm still online.
You're still online here.
Okay, I lost some kind of a background.
Okay, you're still here.
Yeah,
I think I just muted it, so...
Okay, yeah, it might be. That's just a different kind of a voice or noise world in my ears. So I was cautious about it. Then what happens that you start a new instance of a end-to-end process execution, new instance, new case in an end-to-end process execution engine, the business process automation workflow engine. And what then happens, that brings you and fires up the first sub-process in the case. And that is usually a need analysis where your job or the relationship manager job is to understand more in detail what is the need. Why do you need mortgage? How much? What liabilities you have in other banks? Do you have other loans? Do you have assets? What is your kind of? They need to know many things from you before they can actually make a decision around the kind of a loan. And they need to also, we are on this heavily regulated kind of industry. So there's this commercial flow about understanding what is the loan for and how much loan we can give to you. And then there's other processes like sanction screening and know your customer that the regulatory kind of entities are requiring you to perform. You need to know that the person who started the job in the chatbot is not on EU's or USA's sanctions lists. So you need to be sure about that. Then once that is finished, it goes to a different team in the organization, usually a credit assessment team. It might be that some loans are actually automatically accepted. You don't need to do a credit assessment, credit and kind of with the credit and rating teams. But if you need to go there, then there's another team coming into the case, taking the data that you have and calculating through their own kind of measures, what is the credit, what is the margin that we can give out to this loan. Then next phase, when that is kind of the credit has been assessed, then there's a decision. Usually at least 4 eyes, sometimes 6 eyes are needed to accept that loan. If we're talking about corporate loans, so usually they are big loans, millions of euros, worth hundreds of millions euros. There needs to be some kind of acceptance loop. Different people need to see it and understand the credit process, the results from there, as well as the need analysis process. Why we have been, what is the reason behind the kind of loan, what is the reason why we propose this type of a loan, this type of a margin, this type of things before they can accept. Then the offer is given back to the customer, and the customer might accept it. That's good news. It moves forward. You fulfill, you create actually the accounts and the loans, you pay out the money, you do the kind of a sign-ups, you do the recordings in the vault, whatever is needed. But it might be that the offer is not accepted. It goes back to the need analyst. You'd start to construct the loan in a new way so that it has better terms or different kind of reasons why it can be accepted. So it's a kind of a journey. It goes through multiple different processes, multiple different stakeholders. There's different type of tasks involved, some of which can be automated with RPA and are actually automated in most of the banks already with RPA. But you start to get the picture that the actual end-to-end process is much more than just those individual tasks here and there. And just to kind of give you, I think I have more animations. This is not real numbers, but this is very close to real numbers from large banks. So typically these processes, this involves very many handovers. So there's the customer, there's the relationship manager, there's the operations team, there might be the credit assessment team, giving some verbal kind of comments already in the need analysis team, phase. So actually you have typically half of a dozen of handovers, and then you have, and those go over. There's more than 20 handovers in a process like this. And every time you do a handover, you send an email or you upload a document in a system, and then someone reads it. No one down the line here in the kind of a credit decision phase or in the order fulfillment phase understand what happened in the need analysis phase. Don't have the insight and transparency to the need analysis phase. They cannot understand why we are proposing a loan, what we are proposing, but they're still asked to assess it and make a decision about it. So they make the decision on the artifacts, the papers that come out, the rating numbers, not the fact that they would understand why Mike and Lisa make the decision and what were the original discussions earlier. Then typically these processes, they have a touch time around 30 hours around, or 60 hours, 1 to 2 weeks is the actual touch time that people work on it. But it takes 20 days, 30 days to push it through the whole system. And if I'm a single customer, I want to have a loan. It's quite simple of a request. Can I have 2 million of a loan as a corporate, or 100 million of a loan? But it involves so many different actors in the bank, different kind of processes and phases that it takes almost 20 days. And me as a customer, I don't have any transparency. Neither have any of the persons any transparency into the process. So I don't know if it's day 15, I asked from the bank that what is the situation of my loan? No one can answer out of the shelf that where is it? Is it in a credit decision or assessment, or are the offer actually already in the kind of in the email out inbox? No one has that transparency. So they need to start to call to the credit assessment team and look into different systems. There isn't this kind of heartbeat visibility into the process. And then when you have these processes in the volumes of thousands and thousands a year, even though it's not like hundreds of thousands, there's at least 400 to 800 people working in these teams in a large bank. Might be more than 1,000 people working around this process in different parts of the process. And it's not about automating a task in the kind of uploading documents into the vault. It's about optimizing the process and using the technology to do that. And that was a conceptual picture. This is actually real numbers from the same type of, the numbers are the same on the left-hand side, but the business value delivered with this type of approach. Ability to reduce the turnaround time, the 30 days or 20 days with more than 40%. So around 10 days of a throughput time, while releasing 20% of a relationship manager capacity. So getting rid of 20% of activities that previously were performed through automation, do better orchestration, better visibility. No need to call to people that where is the loan, what is happening. That information is a real-time status, is available for all stakeholders at any given moment. And then on top of all of those benefits, you actually have a first-time right figure that is very, very high because you are controlling the process all the time. You have one place, one dashboard, one place where you can see all of your loans, the 1,000 loans that are parallel running in your systems, and drill into each individual loan, and you can understand all the details of that. And it's not happening in the underlying applications, or it's not happening as an integration between the CRM and some kind of credit system. It's happening as an orchestration on top of the systems, as a business process automation that automates the workflow itself that goes through these different phases. And still, humans are performing many of the tasks, all the decisions, and many of the tasks. Still calling the customer, asking what is this loan good for you, and making that type of a behavior. It's not like fully automated, but it is kind of orchestrated, and that is probably the right word to understand. Good. Any questions this far? Now I have different use cases from different kind of industries, real use cases that kind of sheds a light how this becomes true in different scenarios, different kind of places.
No, Karli, I think for me personally, it's very, very interesting to see this. It's a world that I don't know a lot about. I know a little bit about it, like maybe a corner or something. Una says, sorry if I mispronounce your name, says that this is so interesting. Thank you, Karli.
That's nice to hear.
And
I think.
Yeah, sorry, just continue.
Yeah, so I think Deepak asked earlier that how RPA and how kind of BPA can work together, or BPM can work together. And I think the answer is that in this colossal process that we have in front of here, there is around 15, 20 different tasks that can be or are usually already automated by RPA. So they are those work performing actors and units of work that has automated. Previously a task had 5 FTEs, or I was working in the early days in the bank, and the first thing that we did was part of the KYC process that is actually a sub-process in the need analysis phase. So something that is even a sub-process of the main process. And the first automation, the RPA automation that we did, had 37 FTEs, 37 FTEs in the one automation. And that was just about collecting data for the KYC process, not actually performing the whole KYC process. So that gives you this idea that there is many tasks along this journey, and this is a big high-level picture. Many of them are already automated, some of them can still be automated, and many of them actually can be automated, but some of them already are automated. And the role of RPA is to be a capability to automate some of the tasks along the journey, but it can be connected to the actual end solution. It can be called upon. And yesterday we showed that, so we can send a signal to UiPath's cloud orchestration API. Hey, please, UiPath, go and do this task for me. Collect these data points for the KYC process for this person. And then UiPath goes, does all the job, returns back the information that now I have uploaded all the kind of data into the KYC tool or the KYC, whatever, where it's happening. And actually it shows a green light. So you can move forward. And then the process goes to the next phase, and these are the process continues. So you can call, or you can call the Blue Prism 7.2. There is the hub API that you can call for initiating processes and communicate between the RPA bot and the orchestration tool about those tasks that are designed or dedicated for RPA bots. So that is, it's kind of a symbiosis, but the role of the RPA is to execute the task, when the role of the BPA engine is to ensure that when the or initiate the task when this task needs to be performed, and then making a business decision or rule decision what happens after the task has been completed, where the process goes next, dependent on the payload, the outcome of the RPA task. But the KYC tool showed red. I cannot move forward. I need to escalate. I need to do something. This actually is on the sanction. No, KYC is not about the sanction list, but anyway, we cannot serve this because it's a gambler. The guy is a gambler. We cannot do business with this guy. Something like this. So then the process stops. There's different rule based on the outcome of the RPA task in the actual process itself.
Great, Karli. And I will say that Just Buy also says that just literally watch, and very interesting. And I will repeat myself, it's very interesting, this one, Karli. So thank you. I learn a lot that I can use further on in my career.
Good, thank you. So this is another case. And here comes the kind of, I talked in the beginning that there is the task layer in the bottom. Then there is the processes. And the processes we saw in the previous slide, that there is the kind of, I actually put it previous slide so you can see it. there's these tasks inside. There's the main processes: need analysis, credit assessment, credit decision. They all are a process that take multiple days to complete usually. And then you have the you have the case. You have one customer journey and a case model, case management model that kind of calls the different processes and understand that if the offer is not accepted, then it brings it back to the need analysis phase and initiates the need analysis process again, and the activity is there, and does all the subsequent. So there's the orchestration of the customer journey, if one likes. But in the launch origination case, it's very simple to understand in this kind of sequential flow. There's something that starts and it ends, and it takes 30 days. Okay, it's complex and it might need capabilities like case management to execute it. I just say only 30 days, and you can understand it as a flow. In this case, coming from the kind of healthcare health system, it is, and I think Nico talked about this a lot yesterday. It's about cancer follow-up. So if you are, if you have a bad luck, I suppose it's a good word, and get a cancer, and then you get cured from the cancer, then you usually end up into a follow-up protocol, which usually takes, in this case, this is breast cancers. It takes 5 to 10 years that you need to be invited to follow-up tests. Is it once a year or twice a year, something like that? All dependent on the different kind of cancer that you have had, and the severity of the cancer, and the kind of what is the kind of at any given moment the protocol that needs to be followed. So the case itself, it's not that linear. It's 8 years, 10 years there, that one case instance, and then there are sub processes. The case instance is that there is 10,000 or 100,000 patients who are in this protocol. So every day you need to send 10 invitations for someone whose time has come to the kind of follow-up procedures. Then you create a process that actually sends out those appointment letters, kind of, and if the person has not went to the appointment, or a couple of days before the appointment, sends an automatic reminder about that. If the person has not gone there, then kind of escalates it back to the person and says that, hey, now you need to book another appointment, and these are the next available dates. If the process cannot move forward, if the test results are not there, and if the person goes to the tests, then the tests results come to another system, and based on the test results, then you kind of make decisions. If the test is neutral, so the person goes and uses a portal and goes to the tests and kind of gets the test results in another system, which is a kind of the imaging system in the background. When the test results come back, then it might be that they're neutral. So what happens? This guy, the case stays alive, but there's a new event that after 6 months reinitiate this process. Or if there's something in the test results, then there's a cascading amount of different sub-processes that might occur. You might want to redo the X-ray, you want to do an ultrasound, you want to do a fast test. Depending on the cancer and the type of that, there's different types of things that might. So then you start to kind of send appointment letters and different kind of enabling the patient to book their kind of follow-up tests and read the test results and integrate this all the time to the backend systems and EMRs and imaging and laboratory systems. So the case itself is not that straightforward as a consequent SQL flow that has start and end, but it is an activities that need to be performed, and every time there's a new data point in the process, the actual case might take a different route, and in the end the medical decisions are done by clinicians. So the automation cannot make a medical decision, but it can facilitate the process and escalate and create all the information about the previous years, the previous test results, the kind of test results in this year's case, the original X-rays, the new ultrasounds, the laboratory results, and then allow the patient to book up a new meeting in the portal for the physician or the clinical staff, whoever it is, a doctor. And then the doctor makes a diagnosis and defines what happens next to this case. Has the cancer renewed? Should we start chemotherapy, whatever, again, and start treating it? Or is it just a false positive and then we move into protocol? There's some kind of entity, the patient itself, that needs to be orchestrated across the different underlying applications, across different sequential activities for 5 years. And today, in today's situation, it's done in Excels and in Outlook calendars, and people are calling and trying to manage this complexity. And if you have 10 patients, it's fine. If you have 10,000 patients, it's quite difficult. If you have 100,000 patients, it's almost impossible to ensure the patient safety. The fact that no one drops out, everyone in the Excel is actually invited, everyone gets the appointment letter, everyone goes there, everyone gets the results, and based on the results, the right actions are taken. So it's orchestrating the patient journey. Even though many of the activities, patient actually goes to the laboratory, and the laboratory actually kind of a doctor says about the results something. It's not about doing the physician's job. It's about ensuring that nothing drops in between the chair and the table. And this type of a solution, yet again, you can picture it as sitting on top of the existing enterprise applications and orchestrating the patient through all the complexity that resides in his patient journey or her patient journey. That is another use case that has been delivered. And the key drivers, I think there's 8 or 7, Nico would know this better, he has been working on this, 7 RPA bots along this journey, either in the integration to the kind of backend systems if they don't have APIs, or actually doing something in the reminding letters and so forth, that are connected into this end-to-end sequence. But that is not the point, that you can retrieve data or do something in the kind of application. The point is the patient safety and how to improve that in this specific case. That is another use case. I would love to know more about all the clinical elements about and improvements about this use case, but in its essence, it's a manifestation of exactly the same capabilities, thinking about the business process or the customer journey and automating the journey. And part of the journey, there are tasks, and some of them are done by humans, the patient or the physician, and some of them can be automated. But the whole concept is about orchestration. The value is in the fact that you ensure that nothing falls in between the chair and the table ever in the 5-year journey. And there's 100,000 of these parallel 5 years journeys. So you need an engine that can maintain and persist the state of all of those 100,000 live instances and persist the state for 5 years and allow the process to run. Something that cannot be completed in an RPA engine, even though RPA is a good tool to execute the task along the journey.
Great, Karli. And just to give you maybe a cup of water, we have a few comments.
Yeah.
Deepak says, sounds really awesome. So connecting both tech stacks, RPA and BPM, will lead to end-to-end automation / orchestration of processes. Is that correctly understood?
It is. And I think kind of in that end-to-end automation and orchestration, there's also other technologies like API connections, automations, humans and stuff like that actually, but RPA has a crucial part. And in all of our use cases, I have 6 here and there's many more. I think in every single of those, there's at least 3 or 4 RPA tasks in that end-to-end journey, because there's no other way. Organizations are still facing those legacy applications, still seeing elements in their architecture that don't have an API endpoint, don't have a good kind of connectivity. You cannot go to the database because it's not according to the data privacy or some kind of data security rules in the organization. So the only remaining option to automate that task is to use RPA and go through the mainframe UI to retrieve the data that the process needs. So it's always part of it, at least based on our experience. But there's many other actors also in the business process automation itself. There's other automation capabilities that can be acting as an automated action in the process.
Thank you, Karli. And there's one comment that's not a question, but Chris says, the banking world is prime for any RPA automation, especially those that have existing and data is held on mainframe type platforms. Clearly, you can hear the banking experience from Karli. Is that correct, Karli, that you are heavily experienced in banking?
Yeah, I think part when I mentioned that I had an RPA developer, then a operating model architect, then the program manager. So I was working to one of the biggest, or actually the biggest bank in the Nordics, to driving their RPA program. And I think they ended up with around 700 plus automations in production over those 3 years. So it was a very big program, and it is a perfect place for RPA. Those old banking environment, or not old banking environments, but the banking environments typically have old applications, COBOL based, whatever old Java applications that they simply haven't been able to get rid of over the years, but they still need something to improve the productivity. And RPA has been a very banking operations, and RPA has been a very good match made in heaven. Like Blue Prism was invented in Barclays Bank, in the back office of Barclays Bank, to automate exactly those events 15 years ago, because that is a big pain in the banks. But at the same time, that to be said, many of the banks have already taken that steps. They have found that 5% or whatever is the maximum of those tasks that they can automate. And they are actually driving this innovation of, okay, what about if I can at the same time release more capacity from the process, but at the same time reduce the turnaround time and improve the transparency in the process? What if this is actually the next wave? And that's why it's part of the maturity curve or the maturity model as well. You have those low-hanging fruits, that task automation, and then when you go forward, value increases, also the complexity. So you cannot jump from 1 to 4 and expect yourself to be able to execute, but you need to have the mindset that this is a maturation journey where I'm all the time working to get capabilities and activities that are transforming the core of the business, the core processes of the business, because there is the value, that is the place where you are supporting the CEO's agenda in some sense in the organization, making the company better facing its customer, delivering value to its customer, and more cost efficient, so that it can maintain its position in the competitive landscape that every organization is facing in today's world.
Thank you, Karli, and thank you, Chris, and thank you, Deepak, for the nice questions and comments. And we will continue. Karli?
Good. Just time management wise, where are we at the moment?
We are 53 minutes in the session, but I don't have any constraints on time, so I rather want to continue with this if you're fine and
Yeah.
you're not going vacating.
Yeah. There's the fridge is waiting, but I can still wait for a while. I think I have 3 cases here left, but I will do probably 2. And before I go into them, now we have seen a case from the banking world, from the healthcare world. Now I want to show one case from, not from improving the operations point of view, even though I've been talking about let's work with the core and improve the operations, but a case that is simply about control. And control means you are compliant, and compliant means that you avoid a big risk of being non-compliant. This is actually a real case and a very good one, but the sole motivation of it is that you can control the process, and when you can control, you can always prove that you're compliant, and when you can prove you're compliant, then you avoid the risk that might be multi-million risk of being non-compliant. And the other case that I'm going to talk about is about what I call the RPA use case. So it's actually the sole reason going to this direction is that they had already done so much with RPA that they start to have side effects. The RPA itself started to become the problem, and the solution that the customer took was to take business process automation to actually mitigate the problem that was induced by the RPA bots. They didn't have the core process thinking necessarily. They had that, but that wasn't the point that let's transform our loan storage journey. It was that, hey, now we have done so much with RPA that we have this humongous problem. We need to solve it. So I will kind of go to these 2 use cases because they are motivated from very different points of view. All of the 4 that I'm going to discuss about, and this gives you the tone that all of these kind of cases that we are talking about and the technologies we're talking about, they're like generous, like RPA. You all know RPA. It's not meant to do anything. You can do everything with it. And that is the biggest problem of the technology, that it's not about that you cannot deliver. It's about having the idea first, that what should I actually do? And that becomes the difficult thing. What is the motivate? What should I do with the technology? And that's why I show different type of use cases to make your movement or your thinking to move and put that into a movement so that you can think of what type of things can be solved, and if there's anything that is even remotely in the same lines in your own business and or organization, because the technologies themselves, they can do anything basically, because they are long business process as a hypothesis, at least. Probably not. It might be very complex and very, very difficult. That's the technology. It's not the complexity in that case itself. But this is a VAT reporting, kind of a value-added tax reporting, and it's about financial services organizations have this construct that they are legally having. They have two types of businesses. There's a business that is VAT deductible, and a business that is VAT non-deductible, and the two separate business lines. And every quarter or every year, how often it's done, in their taxation, they can deduct from the VAT tax that they have paid throughout the whole year. They can deduct the amount that, or in the pro rata ratio from their kind of purchase orders that their new businesses are kind of, so the VAT deductible business is having 30% of the revenue, the non-deductible having 70% of the revenue, so they can deduct 30% of all the VAT costs that they have accumulated over the year. That is the basic rule. And this process itself, it's very much kind of a reporting type of a process. So what you do, you go and extract data from multiple sources. You might use an RPA or an API. In this case, it's an API kind of integration. So you go and get all the sales and purchase invoices, sales orders and purchase invoices throughout the whole year, or the period in this case is 1 month. So in the 1 month period. And if you cannot access the data, you can create a ticket. This is a good thing about these technologies, that you can always then, if automation is done, you can create a human task. You can create a task for a human in the IT. Hey, I cannot access the data, the API is wrong, whatever, automatically. And then when the task is mitigated, the process can move forward. So it's not just an email somewhere, but you can actually make the action to the right person connecting to the API of the ITSM tool or something like that. But then you go, if you get the data, you go and you actually go through all the revenue categories. So you all the freaking kind of purchase orders in the whole year or whole month, and line by line define them, that this goes in the deductible, this goes to the non-deductible. There's a default list somewhere available that has the high level picture. All the different types of purchases that you can do are then in that default list, say that which one goes to that business and which one goes to this business. A very tedious, mundane thing that needs to be done. And if there's any deviations, and this is the point of the solution, if there's deviations, so the default list, I have something in my, it's marked in the system to be deductible, but the default list says that it's non-deductible. So then I create a human task, control task for the tax expert, saying that, hey, now there's a deviation. This line, this purchase order is categorized as non-deductible. It should be deductible, or do you have another opinion? And then the person has in the UI that Nico showed yesterday many times, has a task for me to say that, okay, these 5 purchase orders needs to be reviewed. And I can do kind of, I say, no, it's correct. It should be non-deductible, even though the default says it's deductible. So we need to update the default list. Or it's no, yeah, someone has made a mistake. It should be non-deductible. So let's change the value in the kind of the financial accounting system. So you can then kind of either change the value in the process or go and create a task to kind of update the default list. This could obviously be done automatically as well, but at the moment it's done manually because they want to control every time there's a change in the default list that needs to be manually performed. You do it the same for the kind of the cost side, so the cost categories, exactly the same process. Work with the deviations, then you calculate the pro rata ratio. product ratio is then accepted by the head of tax or whoever makes the decision, and then you go and kind of update the actual end results into the place where you get the files or the data from in the first place. So you go to the accounts payable and receivable side and update the actual dates or the changed values into the system. So you maintain the information about the changed values in this kind of this business process automation tool throughout the whole existence of the process. Once everything is accepted, then you go and push it into the target system. And it's not a tremendously huge case in the sense that it would be the loan origination journey. But the point is that the tax administration might come now and ask from you that last year's February, why did you end up having a pro rata ratio of 37%? You need to be able to answer. And the previous way this process was done, it was Excels, it was emails, it was someone doing it, and there was no control. Even though the end result might be right 37%, you cannot say how you ended up there or even prove that you did it the right way in the first place. And then you start to collect the emails and the Excels from the SharePoints and hope that you can reconstruct the logic that you go doing it. So the single purpose of this, putting this into this type of tool, is that now the administrator, last year's February, okay, I will download the case from the PPA tool. Here is it. Matt and Lisa made these decisions in this phase. Then there was Eric and I don't know, Dami, who made the decision in the next phase. And then our tax administrator accepted the whole pro rata rate and it was updated. This was how it went. And by the way, we have all the calculations also here available, so you can go through yourself if you like. A dump file there. So you can always ensure that you're compliant. You can always prove to the administrator or the auditor that you can control this process. That was the motivation of going this direction. Very, very different than the core cases, but showing that the same elements, control, connecting the automations and the human activities into a seamless workflow, and having transparency to execution. Exactly the same reasons that were the motivations for the bank to go into the loan origination journey is behind this case. The value is not just in improving the core business value, it's in control and it's risk avoidance, but the same capabilities, the same fact that we have been talking for a couple of days here is the reason why they want to do this. They want to have a capability where they can have the transparency to the execution, and by that they can say that they can control this process. And obviously they can also automate much more than previously, so that is a good thing, but it never was a very high FTE load task in the first place. So the benefit from that is not necessarily the biggest one from the pure FTE savings, but it's about the risk avoidance and the cost picture in the organization.
Great.
Any questions?
Yeah. No, not questions to that case, but we have questions more general afterward.
So we will take it afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah. So then the last one, this is about a case that I promised, that the sole reason and the purpose, it's not probably the sole purpose, and I obviously want to have drama and you want to kind of frame it in one way or another, but it's still one of the key reasons was that this organization, it's an HR and financial accounting business process outsourcing company. So their core process is to do, for example, payroll process as a service for their customers. So they have thousands of customers to whom they do the payroll process as a service. And that type of a business, it's the cost per transaction is the king KPI in some sense, because if you are the most cost efficient on the market, then you can win new business, because one of the key reasons organizations outsource their HR payroll processes is that they try to get cost benefits out of it, and the one who can offer the cheapest price and the same service usually wins the contract. So that if this industry is heavily driven by the cost optimization in the core processes, because that is basically the only way to acquire new customers, to be cost competitive. There's no better payroll service. There's no better way of doing it. It's just a service that needs to be done. Very standard one. exactly from that reason, they have started an RPA program 5 or 6 years ago, have around 100 automations in productions on a high level, right number, and have been investing heavily into getting the cost down with RPA. Have been very successful. It's management team led organization strategic initiative, has been successful. But in this payroll process, they have, I think, 23 RPA bots or something like that along the whole end-to-end payroll journey. So the payroll journey, what we are talking about, it's the first phase is that you open up the payroll run. You create all the kind of activities in the target systems and open the payroll run. Then in the next phase, the second phase is that you calculate which employees are part of this payroll run. In big corporations, there's multiple salary dates for different employees. So you need to understand which employees are part of this salary run. And there's always exceptions. Someone is getting an additional salary or has missed a salary or has a holiday salary or something like that. So people who are not typically part of the payroll run might still be part of the payroll run. So you need to do some logic there to kind of understand to whom to pay the salaries in this payroll run. Then you actually calculate the salaries, and everyone knows there's rules, but then there's exceptions to the rules and all sorts of the things. So that needs also a lot of processing. And then you accept the proposed salaries with the end customer's HR, because eventually they are responsible that they pay the right salaries to their employees. So there's the third party integration involved. Then you pay out the salaries. And after you paid out the salaries, at least in Finland, you need to do kind of obviously house cleaning. You need to close down the payroll run and do all the kind of booking recordings in your accounting. But then you need to also upload the data into national income registry. So a third-party system yet again managed by the administrator that maintains, and the tax administration can then pull income data from there, and your taxation goes automatically. It's a wonderful service for citizens, but it causes an additional step for these service providers. So kind of these 5 phases in the end-to-end process. 23 bots in different parts of the process. Looks, sounds, smells a lot like the launch origination case. 5 cases, many bots. The same logic applies. But point being that those 23 bots, they created around 100 notifications. So exception messages, alerts, something, a week to the SMEs. So the automation rate of one RPA bot might be 90%, but still you have a kind of 20 of them. So all the time, and you have 1,000 or 2,000 customers or whatever, all the time you have exceptions. So 100 notifications. Those notifications come as an email to the SME table. An SME reads the email, spends 15 minutes to understand which customer, which RPA bot, and why it failed. Where does this noise come from? Where is this alert coming from? 15 minutes approximately there, then 5 minutes of making the corrective action, and business continues. 100 times this. So actually they cannot get even the benefits of the actual automations that they have, because they need to keep people aware and reacting to those exceptions and those alerts and the noise that the RPA bots create, because they cannot fully master and always have 100% automation rate, but they fail and do different things in the processes. Their logic is not always like 100% the same every time. So that noise became a problem. They calculationally they should get more value out from the automations, but they cannot outmeasure it because they need to keep people there looking into those emails and doing the corrective actions, and spend 15 minutes on understanding what is that I should do in the first place. And then they kind of didn't have any control. They didn't have transparency. They didn't know where the process actually having the bottlenecks, where is the problem of pushing it forward, how to improve it further. They have already taken out all the low-hanging fruits. They're no-brainers. Now it's about how can I improve the process even further, understanding the end-to-end data of the whole payroll sequence. And with their kind of the automation program, they were able to reach around an 80% of or a little bit less than 80% of automation rate. So actual automation resides in the RPA. But the orchestration is designed, instead of sending emails, instead of sending kind of notifications, all the human decisions in the end-to-end process. So the accepting the salaries, double checking the salaries before they go to the customer's HR system, double checking the values in the kind of to whom to say the filer is before moving forward. So these kind of human control points in the end-to-end process that always were there, never was automated because you want to have those control points. All of them were pulled into the same PPA tool that we showed yesterday. So they were the process, everything else was automated in the background, but the process tasks that were in the process, a human need to make a decision and accept before we can move forward. So they were working, they transformed their way of working in that tool. Instead of going to the applications and doing stuff, they only got those decisions automated underneath. And then if there's an exception in RPA bot, that become a new task, a different task, saying that, hey, by the way, this RPA bot is not able to execute. This is the data that the RPA bot had. Can you change this value? Because this value is wrong. Or can you assess this value is empty? And then the person has an option that I update the value, press OK, and the bot restarts, it redos the activity, moves forward. Or then the person can check out the case for himself and do it manually forward. And then once he's completed, then the case moves forward. So they pulled in all the decisions and the exceptions into one UI. So then suddenly you have task management. You have all your tasks dedicated to you in one place, not in emails, not in place. And every time you see a task, it's explicitly clear which customer, because you know which one of the customers this case what came from, which bot it is, because you know in the background that what is the bot that causes it, and you can even show to the person in the UI that what is the corrective action that is expected by the human to be taken so that bot can move forward. So getting that 15 minutes of investigation to zero and then optimizing that 5 minutes of corrective action into a couple of seconds. So they themselves report that they get another 10 percentage points cost benefits, cost reduction on top of all the automations that they already have done by simply orchestrating the process and connecting the humans and the automation into a seamless workflow. And that is what made them super interested or excited that, and they are now about to scale it into the financial accounting process and other processes because they have a lot of RPA, 100 RPAs already, and now they suddenly see a huge value of connecting in the end-to-end payroll all the human activities, all the RPA activities into an end-to-end seamless workflow that improves the performance of the process, cost, performance, transparency. Plus, they have a process mining type of feature. Now they can actually see database, which phase takes most of time, where is the bottlenecks, how to optimize it further. So that is a strategic tool for them yet again to improve their kind of operation going forward. But the reason they got this was that the RPA had caused a problem for them that they needed to solve. If you a little bit over exaggerate the thing, but anyway, that is a kind of the logic behind this type of use case. Good. There's some kind of a conceptual picture about orchestration, and I know all the conceptual picture are a little bit different. I should probably make one version of them, but the idea is that there's different phases, different subtasks towards different applications. Some of them are powered by humans, some of them are RPA, and then you need a way to control, drive, push, approve, do all the kind of human control points in that process to allow yourself to actually execute the end-to-end workflow.
Great, Karli, really great. And we are about to come to an end to this very nice session. And I will just recap that you can always ask questions to Karli, even if you watch this session afterwards. You can book an appointment with Digital Workforce, a free meeting, 30 minutes to discuss these things. And you can also put in comments for this presentation to Karli. I'll make sure that I'll forward those questions to Karli, so I'll make sure that we will answer all questions coming after the session as well.
Yeah.
Is there something you want to add, Karli?
Yeah, I think I have run to the end of my presentation. I appreciate the fact that there has been questions along the journey. We are a bit over time for the original schedule, but I think it has served the purpose. There's been actually something in the agenda to talk about, so I'm happy. I see some questions still there, and probably we can quickly spin around them, but still anyway,
Yeah,
I'm
we
happy
have
with.
one which is not completely related to all this, but I know you have a lot of experience. That's from Eduardo. He says, "What RPA platform do you use or recommend?" I saw you were UiPath partners or you were Microsoft Blue Prism, but which one do you recommend?
Oh, that's a good question. I think our recommendation from 2019 onwards, which when we launched our kind of RPA technology platform offering called Roboshore, that Elias talked in the first session a bit about. The motivation was that the tools are very different in the sense that there might be technical performance differences, but it's not always. But the biggest question I have that even though I would say now that okay, if you ask me to purchase a tool, I would go with UiPath. Okay, UiPath, fine, I have a choice. I cannot promise that I would change my mind in a year. SSC and Blue Prism are doing a lot of work into actually introducing the PPA technologies to SSC's chorus into the same platform, and they're releasing the next gen platform of the Blue Prism architecture at the same time and allowing those technologies natively to discuss together in the same runtime. I might actually recommend Blue Prism in a year. Or then if you are about to use process orchestration and you have a tool or you want to have event automations, RPA automations, but you want to have events driving them, like your iPaaS or your integration platform, like probably Robocorp that has a very good, neat kind of API integration. You can actually expose your RPA bots as API endpoints and run them as behind a kind of event stream. So in that use case, I would probably go there. It's not a trivial answer. I know that you would love to have an answer. If I would need to buy something, probably I would buy a UiPath at the moment, but I would consider myself. That's why we launched the offering 4 years ago. That in our service you can use all of them. You can have one process in Blue Prism, one process in UiPath, 5 processes in Robocorp, 15 in Microsoft. We don't care what is the technology. In the end, we measure your production minutes, not that you license for 7 bots or 5 bots or 15 bots. We measure after the month how many minutes you actually processed, and we invoice per minute, no matter what technology. It's a multi-technology, technology agnostic platform that allows you to benefit from all the technologies without double licensing, double costs, triple costs, having all of the capabilities. Obviously, the technical capabilities, how to model and do stuff, is a little bit different. So you cannot assume that the person can do everything. If they have been doing blueprints, they cannot do UiPath without the training. But at the same time, you don't have to pick the horse that wins in 5 years. You can outsource that risk to us or the service provider like us, and we can always deliver the technologies that you have. Might have that you have 15 RPA bots in your Blue Prism. Okay, fine. Then you run those. You don't have to migrate to UiPath because you want to use UiPath now and have the task mining capabilities, for example, in your disposal. You don't have to migrate the 15 processes to UiPath, but you can actually leave them to run in Blue Prism to the bitter end up until they retire, they are not needed anymore, and start doing all the new automations with UiPath. And then in 2 years, you have suddenly a situation that you have only UiPath because all the Blue Prism robots were already out of date. The reason why they were used went away or stuff like that. So I think that is our take, and my take into that question is that it's a potato, tomato, whatever question that some of them are very good in something, some are there. If you want to do API level automation only in your Microsoft ecosystem, who would be so stupid to use anything else than Power Automate? I mean, kind of direct integrations, ready-built connectors, very cheap execution, instant execution. It's very easy. But yet again, if you have an old mainframe, Power Automate is not the right tool for you. Or Power Automate Desktop is not probably the best UI automation tool on the market. Again, and so forth and so forth. So it's an in that sense difficult world that there isn't a kind of clean cut answer that always yes have this one and then you are good. Even though when I've said that, I think every use case can be executed in any of the technologies in the end. It might be more complex, some of them are more reliable, some of them are a bit quicker, but in the end you can do the same use case with any of the technologies. They are not that different from each other.
Thank you, Karli, and to you, Eduardo. I hope that was answer enough for you. Please let us know in the chat. Karli, it's been an absolutely pleasure to have you here. I learned a lot myself, and thanks to all the nice viewers out there. Thanks for your comments, questions, interactions. If you like this stream and if it helped you, please give it a thumbs up. That will make Karli, I, and Digital Workforce go further in the YouTube universe. Karli, have a great vacation.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here, and enjoy the rest of the week.
See you.
See you. Bye.